What if I told you there are Washington quarters worth hundreds of thousands of dollars hidden in your change? From misprints to error coins, these ultra-rare quarters have unbelievable values that will blow your mind. Stick around to discover the top 8 Washington quarters that could make you a fortune. Main body, history and transition. The 1965 Washington quarter is not just another coin, it marks one of the most pivotal shifts in U.S. coinage history. Up until 1964, quarters were made of 90% silver. But due to a nationwide silver shortage and rising silver prices, the U.S. Mint made a dramatic decision. Starting in 1965, quarters would no longer contain silver. Instead, they'd be made of a clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between 2 layers of nickel. But here's where things get interesting. During this transition, the Mint was producing billions of coins, and in the chaos, a few silver planchets, those blank pieces of metal meant for the older 90% silver quarters, were accidentally fed into the presses and struck with the new 1965 design. These accidental 1965 silver quarters are now among the rarest and most valuable U.S. coins ever discovered. Rare variants and value. So, how much can a rare 1965 quarter be worth? A 1965 quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet can easily fetch $5,000 to $10,000, and some examples in pristine condition have sold for over $15,000 at auction. A double-die error or off-center strike from that year can bring in hundreds to thousands, depending on condition and clarity. And get this, if you find a proof 1965 quarter, struck at the San Francisco Mint before the official changeover, you could be looking at $30,000 to over $50,000, with some private sales rumored to exceed $100,000 for nearly flawless specimens. In the world of coin collecting, even a faint mint error or unusual coloration on a 1965 quarter can dramatically increase its value. History: why the 1967 quarter matters. The 1967 Washington quarter might not look special at first glance, no mint mark, no silver shine, just another everyday coin, right? Wrong. This coin was minted during a historic time in U.S. coinage. In the mid-1960s, the U.S. Mint stopped producing silver coins due to a silver shortage and rising metal costs. From 1965 onward, quarters were made of a copper-nickel clad composition, and to prevent hoarding, the Mint removed all mint marks and limited the production of special collector's coins. But that didn't stop errors, surprises, and ultra-rare versions from slipping into circulation. Rare variants and big money value. Now here's where it gets exciting. While most 1967 quarters are worth face value, a tiny number of them are worth a fortune. 1. 1967 SMS, Special Mint Set, Cameo or Deep Cameo quarters. While not regular circulation coins, some 1967 quarters were struck for special mint sets. If you find one with sharp, frosted details and mirror-like fields, a Deep Cameo SMS, it can be worth $500 to $5,000 or more, depending on its condition and rarity. 2. Double die obverse errors, DDO. In rare cases, 1967 quarters were struck with a doubled image, especially on the date or lettering. A confirmed DDO can fetch $1,000 to $3,000, depending on how dramatic the doubling is. 3. Off-metal errors, the Holy Grail. Here's the jackpot: some 1967 quarters were mistakenly struck on silver planchets, blanks meant for other coins. These are extremely rare, and a genuine 1967 quarter struck on a silver or wrong metal planchet could sell for $10,000, $25,000, or even over $40,000 in top condition. 4. High-grade business strike quarters. Even regular 1967 quarters in perfect, uncirculated condition, graded MS67 or higher, can bring $1,000 to $3,000 because they're so hard to find without any wear or flaws. History: why the 1969 quarter matters. The 1969 Washington quarter may seem ordinary, but it comes from a critical era in U.S. coin history. The transition away from silver was still fresh, and the U.S. Mint was producing massive quantities of clad coins to keep up with demand. In 1969, all quarters were struck in the copper-nickel clad format, and none were supposed to include silver or mint marks due to the ongoing freeze on collector coins. However, within this massive mintage, a few highly unusual and extremely rare errors slipped through, and they are now worth a fortune. The big money variants. Let's get to what really matters: what 1969 quarters can make you rich. 1. 1969, S-double die obverse, DDO, the legendary error. While technically more common on the 1969 Lincoln cent, a similar kind of doubling error can occur on quarters, and if you find a 1969 quarter with bold doubling on the date or, "In God We Trust," you could be holding a treasure. Although extremely rare, any major double die from 1969 can sell for $3,000 to over $10,000 depending on condition. If one were ever certified by a major grading service, the value could skyrocket. 2. Off-metal strikes, the jackpot. This is where things get truly crazy. In rare cases, a 1969 quarter was struck on a planchet meant for another coin, such as a silver dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin. These off-metal errors are ultra-rare and can command $15,000, $25,000, or more, especially if the error is dramatic and well-preserved. 3. High-grade business strikes, MS-67 plus and above. Most circulated 1969 quarters are worth only face value, but if you have one in mint state, graded MS-67 or higher, the story changes. Due to weak strikes and quality issues that year, high-grade coins are rare. Top-condition specimens can bring $1,000 to $3,000, and potentially much more if they have exceptional luster or eye appeal. History, the story behind the coin. The 1973 Washington quarter was struck at a time when the U.S. Mint was focused on speed and volume. With the transition to copper-nickel-clad coinage completed in 1965, the Mint was producing hundreds of millions of coins per year to meet the demands of the growing economy. In total, over 346 million quarters were minted in 1973, some in Philadelphia, no mint mark, others in Denver, D mint mark. These coins were never intended to contain silver and are mostly common today. But hidden among the mountains of ordinary coins are a few stunning rarities, and that's where things get exciting. Rare variants and values, what could make you rich? Let's talk about the real moneymakers, the rare 1973 quarters that could make your next coin find unforgettable. 1. 1973 off-metal errors, $10,000 to $50,000 plus. In rare cases, 1973 quarters were accidentally struck on planchets intended for other coins, like silver planchets, foreign coins, or copper penny blanks. These are known as off-metal errors and are some of the most valuable coins of the era. One such quarter struck on a 40% silver planchet from a leftover blank was auctioned for over $30,000. If you find one of these, you've hit the jackpot. 2. Double die obverse errors, $1,000 to $3,000 plus. Though rare, some 1973 quarters exhibit doubling on the front, obverse, particularly on the words Liberty or In God We Trust. These double die obverse, DDO, errors can fetch $1,000 to $3,000 or more, especially when verified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC. 3. High-grade mint state quarters, $2,000 to $7,000 plus. Finding a 1973 quarter in perfect condition is tougher than it sounds. Due to worn dies and weak strikes, most coins show imperfections. But if you find a graded MS-67 or MS-68 coin, you're in serious money territory, up to $7,000 or more at auction for a flawless specimen. 4. Broad struck or misaligned die errors, $500 to $2,000 plus. If your 1973 quarter looks a little off, maybe the design is shifted, or the edges are stretched, it might be a broad strike or die alignment error. These coins are collector favorites and can be worth hundreds to thousands depending on severity. History, the context of the 1979 quarter. The 1979 Washington quarter was part of the standard U.S. clad coinage series, made from copper-nickel instead of silver. With no significant design changes, millions of these quarters were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. Most ended up in circulation and are still found in change today. But not all 1979 quarters are created equal. Among the hundreds of millions minted, a few rare errors and high-grade coins have become extremely valuable. And if you know what to look for, your next 1979 quarter find could be worth thousands, or even more. Rare variants and values, where the money is. 1. 1979 off-metal errors, worth $5,000 to over $15,000. Some 1979 quarters were accidentally struck on the wrong planchet, including copper penny blanks or even foreign coin planchets. These are called off-metal errors, and they're incredibly rare. One 1979 quarter struck on a cent planchet sold for over $10,000 at auction. Imagine finding that in your pocket change. 2. Double die obverse, DDO, errors, $500 to $3,000 plus. A 1979 quarter with noticeable doubling on the front, especially on the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," is a double die obverse. These errors can fetch $500 to $3,000, depending on the strength of the doubling and the coin's condition. 3. San Francisco Mint proof errors, deep cameo rarities worth thousands. In 1979, the San Francisco Mint struck proof quarters for collectors. While most are common, some deep cameo proof strikes in flawless condition have sold for $1,000 to $5,000, and if you find one with a rare die variety or error, the value could soar even higher. 4. Ultra-high-grade circulation coins, MS-67 Plus and up to $7,000. While most 1979 quarters are worth face value, a perfectly preserved coin graded MS-67 or higher by PCGS or NGC can sell for $2,000 to $7,000. These are exceptionally hard to find, but they do exist, and collectors are willing to pay big for them. History, setting the stage. The 1980 D Washington quarter was minted at the Denver Mint, marked by the D on the right side of George Washington's ponytail. This was the era of high-speed production, and over 518 million of these quarters were struck to support a growing U.S. economy. Like all quarters minted since 1965, it was made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, no silver, and most are still only worth face value. But among these half-billion coins, a few slip through the cracks, and those mistakes are worth a fortune. Rare variants and big money coins. Here's where things get really exciting, the rare errors and valuable variants of the 1980 D Washington quarter. 1. Off-metal error quarters, worth $5,000 to $15,000 plus. Some 1980 D quarters were mistakenly struck on planchets intended for other coins, such as Lincoln cent blanks or foreign coin stock. These off-metal errors are extremely rare, but when they show up, they can sell for $5,000 to over $15,000 at major auctions. 2. Double die errors, $500 to $3,000 plus. If you notice doubled letters or numbers on the obverse, especially Liberty, the date, or In God We Trust, you might be holding a double die obverse error. These rare finds can command $500 to $3,000 or more depending on how strong the doubling is and the coin's condition. 3. Broad struck and misaligned die errors, $200 to $2,500 plus. A coin that looks stretched, off-center, or missing its rim could be a broad strike or misaligned die error. Collectors love these visual oddities, and some dramatic versions have sold for thousands of dollars. 4. High-grade business strike, MS-67 Plus, up to $6,000. Finding a 1980 D quarter in pristine, uncirculated condition is surprisingly rare. If you have one graded MS-67 or higher, its value could shoot up to $2,000 to $6,000, especially if certified by PCGS or NGC. These top-tier coins are ultra-valuable to registry set collectors. History and context, 031 to 130. Let's rewind to 1982. The United States Mint was facing a serious economic crunch. Due to budget constraints, no official mint sets were produced that year. That means collectors couldn't buy pristine versions of coins from the mint like they normally would, making well-preserved coins from 1982 incredibly hard to find. To make matters more interesting, 1982 was also a transitional year. The mint was experimenting with different planchet compositions and design changes, which led to inconsistencies in die quality, metal finish, and striking pressure. All of these factors combined to make 1982 quarters, especially from the Denver Mint, a hotbed for errors and rare varieties. The rare gem, 1982 D Washington quarter, 131 to 330. Now, let's talk about the star of the show, the 1982 D Washington quarter. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint and is best known for its low mint state population. Most 1982 D quarters in circulation are heavily worn, but finding one in MS-66 or higher condition is extremely rare. But here's where things get even more exciting. There are valuable die varieties, including strong strikes with no mint mark doubling, weak or missing details from overused dies, and rare transitional errors. One of the most sought-after types is a 1982 D quarter with a high grade and full strike, which can fetch over $1,000 at auction. But wait, it gets even better. In 2021, a collector snagged over $10,000 for a nearly flawless MS-68 1982 D Washington quarter. That's not a typo, $10,000 for one coin that many people would overlook as ordinary change. Why it's valuable, 331 to 415. The value of this coin boils down to scarcity plus condition plus demand. Since no mint sets were made in 1982, high-grade examples are few and far between. Combine that with collector interest in 1980s coinage and you have the perfect storm for rising prices. Even coins graded MS-65 can sell for $150 to $300, and anything above that skyrockets in value. History and background, 031 to 130. Let's go back to 1992. The United States Mint was in full production mode, churning out quarters, pennies, nickels, and dimes for circulation. But here's the thing, 1992 wasn't a typical year for coinage. There were a few unusual circumstances happening in the mint's operations. The 1992 D Washington quarter, which was struck at the Denver Mint, is one of the key coins in the Washington quarter series. While the design and composition were typical, there was something special brewing behind the scenes. That year, some mistakes happened, and rarities emerged that collectors would go crazy for later on. And it's these very mistakes and rarities that make the 1992 D Washington quarter one of the most exciting finds for coin collectors today. The rarity, 1992 D Washington quarter, 131 to 330. Here's where things get really exciting. The 1992 D Washington quarter is especially rare in high grades. Coins from this year that are in pristine condition can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Now, you might be wondering, what makes this coin so special? Well, the key lies in error coins, misprints, and high-grade specimens. Some 1992 D quarters were struck with a weak strike or even off-center errors, and finding one of these coins in mint state 67 or higher can make you a serious profit. In fact, the highest graded examples of this quarter have sold for up to $5,000 at auctions. Another factor is coin collectors' fascination with the year 1992. As the 1990s era marked a significant change in American coinage with the 50-state quarters program just around the corner, demand for 1992 coins, especially in mint condition, skyrocketed. However, the rarer finds are the error coins, which are particularly valuable. One of the most sought-after varieties is the 1992 D quarter with a double die or missing mint mark error. These coins, where the engraving appears to be doubled or off-centered, have the potential to fetch upwards of $10,000 if found in excellent condition. Why it's valuable, 331 to 415. So why are these 1992 D quarters worth so much? It's all about scarcity, condition, and demand. The high-grade coins are rare because many of the 1992 D quarters were heavily circulated and didn't survive in good shape. As more collectors focus on error coins and rare high-grade examples, the demand for these 1992 D quarters has skyrocketed. In addition, the coin is still part of a popular series, the Washington quarter, and those errors, combined with collector enthusiasm, have made this particular quarter a true treasure for investors and collectors alike.